Hey guys, Noel here, and I need to go to bed soon. I'm trying to do some last minute lesson planning here, but I have the Vikings game on my mind, and it's become something of a tradition for us to do some YouTube sports weblogging, and unfortunately, that keeps coming up when the Vikings lose in the playoffs. So, what the heck? Let's do a quick sports weblog for the sports weblog section of the YouTube channel. So now, unfortunately, the Minnesota Vikings, who are my favorite team, lost to the Chicago Bears, thus ending their playoff hopes and losing the wild card spot, which they held all season in the NFC. Now, the Minnesota Vikings team, and I'm going to say the same thing I said about the Vikings last year. This is not a time to freak out and start doing crazy things to your organization. I think the Vikings have a good team. I was not necessarily in favor of Kirk Cousins replacing Case Keenum, but once he came in, it is what it is. Kirk Cousins is an elite caliber quarterback. He's certainly optimistic about the organization, what with his $84 million and 3-year guarantee. So, he definitely seems eager and enthusiastic to continue to grow with the organization. And that is something that in your leader and your team captain that you want, someone who is optimistic, glass half full, let's keep moving forward perspective. So that is good. And statistically, he is a fantastic quarterback who I've seen do great things on the field just watching the Vikings play. But definitely, when you bring in a new person like a new quarterback, that does risk messing with the components of a winning team. And that's what the Vikings did when they swapped Case Keenum for Kirk Cousins. One of the questions that kept coming up in post-game press conferences was, oh, do you feel like this was a getting-to-know-you year or a rebuilding year? And that's not the kind of thing that the Vikings should be dealing with, especially when last year you were a game out of the Super Bowl and you got there by beating your, people want to say like, oh, the Packers are the Vikings rival. I mean, to me, the New Orleans Saints are the true rival of the Minnesota Vikings because of the way that the Saints beat the Vikings in 2009 and really robbed them of their Super Bowl win, because the Saints are a team that used vicious bounty hunting techniques to maim and shorten the career of Brett Favre and Kurt Warner. So I mean, I have no respect or any kind of sympathy for the New Orleans Saints, and to beat them in the manner that the Vikings beat them back in 2017 and almost get to the Super Bowl. You want to not have a getting to know you year the year after that. You want to go to the Super Bowl. And this is a pattern with the Vikings, is that when people underestimate the Vikings, that's when the Vikings perform well. When people have high expectations for the Minnesota Vikings, that's when things start to come up short. So, I mean, that's just an observation that I have. In terms of what I thought about this week's matchups, I was deeply concerned last week when I saw that Philadelphia was still in the running. The Vikings have won two big games. Once they got their new offensive coordinator, they seemed to get in a good rhythm. They had a lot of momentum, but I was very nervous because the Washington Redskins seemed to not have anything much to play for. They were basically out of it. The Philadelphia Eagles had a ton of momentum. They've developed into being a bandwagon team with getting a lot of national coverage with a talented head coach, and they've already won the Super Bowl. They are rolling, and they're going up against a team that's just basically got their hands in their pockets. That's almost so it's pretty much guaranteed that the Eagles are going to win. So what does that mean for the Vikings? Well, you've got to win too, but if the Eagles lose, you're in, but the Eagles aren't going to lose. So that means you have to win. And who do you have to win against? You got to win against one of your arch division rivals, who at this point in the year have developed into an elite caliber team because you opened a window for them to become that team by underperforming, partly through fault of your own and partly because of the fact that the Bears just got their act together and started to get some momentum, and now they are what they are. Plus, the more that the Bears beat the Vikings, they get a better playoff spot, and plus the Bears just want to beat the Vikings because, if you're a division rival, you're going to want to beat your division rival. So really risky, dangerous situation for Minnesota. And they got themselves in this situation by having games earlier in the year that they underperformed in. Like, for example, that Buffalo game. The Vikings were out of the playoffs by a game. How did that happen? Underestimating teams like the Bills. It just seemed like that game the Vikings completely looked past Buffalo. I'm not in the Vikings clubhouse, so I don't know these kinds of things, but there were times when, second game of the year, the Vikings should have beaten the Packers. That didn't happen. Should have beaten the Bills. That didn't happen. So we're just talking like a game difference, and you're in the playoffs. And again, when you're hearing things like, "Oh, is this a getting to know you year or getting readjusted year?" That's not the thing that you want to hear at the end of the season when there's maybe unrealistic expectations that you're going to go to the Super Bowl, but those expectations are completely unfounded because you almost got there last year. Now, there's going to be a temptation to swap the Vikings head coach Mike Zimmer for McCarthy, the Packers coach who just got fired. I don't want anyone to get fired. Again, when you start tinkering with established ingredients, especially Mike Zimmer has had success with this team, who knows what could happen. Maybe, but again, the last time the Vikings brought in a major league Packer, like a big elite player, they got Brett Favre, and they maybe had one of their most magical teams in the existence of the Vikings franchise. So it's definitely going to be a temptation to swap Zimmer for McCarthy, but then again, who knows how well McCarthy's going to get along well with Kirk Cousins and all of them. So I don't know, but definitely I think Kirk Cousins. He's an elite quarterback. He's got a good attitude. He's probably got a point when he says the more he plays on this team, the better he's going to get, the better his rapport with the players are going to be. That's true. You don't have much of an option at this point, nor should you, because you cannot just keep swapping quarterbacks every time you have a bad season or a disappointing season. You got to find a guy who's good, stick with that guy, and just see what opportunities open up. So. There's just my thoughts. I'm going to do some more lesson planning and go to bed and root for the Dallas Cowboys because, they're my second favorite team. I loved Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, Deion Sanders, all of them. So the Vikings are out. Cowboys are in. So, yeah, whatever. I don't know. Vikings are my guys. So, but go Cowboys at this point. Until next time, guys, my name's Noel. I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.